Hi, good morning, everybody. Toronto is one of the safest cities, it has been said several times, but in spite of that, there are a lot of criminal activities are going on, and more number of people have been killed here and there, and the police officers also have taken a kind of tough stand in order to bring peace and harmony. So, Aaron, you are in the department of the criminal investigation, or
Yes, I work
similar
here
to that in the
yes.
43 division.
Yes.
Okay, now the thing is that the domestic violence is something is very rampant in these days. If you don't have a kind of peace and harmony at home, you cannot go and do your job well, and you don't do any social activities pretty well, and students also cannot go and attend their class as well. So how far the domestic violence is right now compared with the past?
I can't give you specific statistics, of course, but it's always been an issue in Toronto and across the world, I imagine.
Yeah.
Nowadays, there's lots of different ways to report to police. So we're hoping that through things like this that we're doing today, more people can come forward and report domestic violence to police, and that's what we're here for, is to support people of domestic violence.
Yeah, for example, even in England, there are people, they don't want to expose their domestic violence. So what they do, they confine within themselves.
Right.
So how about in Toronto? Most of them come and report to you, or they just suffer in silence?
I mean, a lot of people come to report to us. It's hard to determine how many are suffering in silence because we would never know if they don't come forward. So our hope is, again, that people know that the Toronto Police are here to support people who are having issues at home, and we're always ready to listen and believe what's going on at home.
So in this case, for example, in the domestic violence between the spouses, then the common law partners and the girlfriends and boyfriends, there are different nature of that. So would you please explain the different natures get involved in this kind of difficult or hard time?
Yes, so the Toronto Police, we define domestic violence as somebody who's involved in an intimate relationship. So that could be girlfriend, boyfriend, wife and husband, the same-sex partnerships. Anybody who's involved in an intimate partner relationship is determined if there's violence involved, then it's deemed domestic violence as far as the Toronto Police goes.
So between the domestic violence and the domestic harassment, would you please explain the different nature of these two?
So violence to us would be anything obviously sort of physical, so an assault, a sexual assault. Harassment would be anything from constant phone calls, messages, showing up at a place of their work or somewhere else where it's a constant harassment. That would be sort of the difference between the violence and the harassment.
As far as the age-wise concern, the Zoom generation and what do you call millennials and then alpha generation and things like that. In which age group you focus more, or where the domestic violence is more rampant?
Right. So first, I just want to go back to your last question. When we're defining domestic violence, it also includes those who were once in an intimate relationship and are no longer now. So if somebody is divorced or if there was a breakup in a relationship, we also include that as far as domestic violence. If they were ever once in an intimate relationship, it always counts. And to your next question about the demographics as to, I think we see a lot of younger people, I think these days are better at coming forward to report. I think there's more media and spotlight on it where they know that they can come to us for help. I think in the older generation, a lot of the times they feel that they should keep it at home or keep it within the family to sort out, or they've been dealing with the situation for so long that to them that violence is normalized, and it's not something that they want to bring and embarrass their family. So we're hoping that we can reach all ages to let them know that they will be supported and believed by the Toronto Police if they come forward with their experience with domestic violence.
How far this domestic violence have a negative impact on the children?
Yes, it can be very hurtful for the children. They're front and center for watching this happen in front of them. Children need to feel safe. They need to be in a home where they can feel loved and supported. And if they're not seeing that from their parents, then it can cause certain harm to them for the rest of their lives if they're not, taken care of and looked at. We have partnerships with Children's Aid Society, which is a group in Toronto that deals specifically with the welfare of children. So through our partnerships, we can make sure that the children are safe and taken care of. And besides us, there's another group that's out there that's going to help us make sure that the children are looked after in situations like this.
These days, we are facing a kind of severe recession. During this recession period, the economic factor is another factor that either increase it or decrease this domestic violence. Mm-hmm. How far you look at in this aspect of it?
There's certainly a lot of pressure when it comes to if people are reporting domestic violence to us and the police get involved and perhaps make an arrest of someone, that person could be the sole person that brings in finances to their household. So if we've now separated the person that brings in the money, it's very difficult for the person that's left at home, possibly still with the children, to make ends meet when we've taken away the person that makes the money in the home. So we have several support systems to help victims and witnesses of domestic violence. We have a victim services group that works, we actually have a group that works right here out of 43 Division, and they're there to provide support and assistance to victims who just need extra support to go through these kind of things. So we work in partnership with them right here at our division, and we share information back and forth with the victim's approval, and we make sure that those people are supported that way.
As far as the income supportive program you have mentioned is very good, Aaron. But in the other side, when we look at the class-wise, the upper income-wise, the bigger class or the middle class, lower middle, upper middle and all. So in the class-wise, how does it affect this domestic violence, reducing it or increasing it?
Again, I'm not sure of the statistics as to that, but I would just say that domestic violence affects everyone across the board. And certainly if you have financial struggles, that can cause more tension in your household, which can lead to more arguing and possibly physically violent. So certainly we want to help everybody across the board as far as domestic violence goes.
In some cases, it is rampant these days in the urban areas, having extra relationship other than the family relationship between the husband and wife. They go here and there and come back and all. These kind of things also, in a way, increasing the domestic violence, having not proper understanding between the spouses. So how do you look at it?
Yes, I mean, certainly open communication between the spouses and, if people are having extramarital affairs, then that can certainly cause tension within the home, more arguments, and, we're just here to support everybody regardless of their situation. We're not here to judge what people are doing. That's up to them how they want to live their lives. We're just here to support should it get to the point where it's a harassing or assaultive behavior. That's when the police will step in to support those people.
Other important thing which people don't talk openly, as far as the sexual relationship is concerned, sometimes the male take and mean advantage and they won't take into considerations of the physical or psychological needs of the spouses. So this is another problem in many families, we could see that. So how do you address this issue?
Again, we have people that are trained in sexual assault investigations as well as domestic violence. So we're hoping that, should that happen to anybody, that they would come forward to report it. It's not right, whether it's male or female or the other way around. We're here to support anybody who wants to report a situation of a sexual assault.
Other than the sexual assault, so for example, sharing the expenses at home. In some places, they don't share it equally, and some suffer out of it and things like that. So how do you think about, or how do you address this issue?
Yeah, again, we're hoping that anybody who needs support, it doesn't even have to be domestic violence. People call us all the time when they just get in an argument with their spouse, and we're there to go and help support them however they can. There's lots of opportunities in Toronto for employment, and I know culturally sometimes only one person will go to work and the other person might stay home, and we're here to support the people who are having difficulty with that by talking them through their issues and try to work together so that it can be a cohesive home.
How about the single mothers? They do have certain problems, and sometimes their boyfriend comes in and they give some kind of headaches or something like that, or the ex-husband comes back and giving some kind of trouble. So what are the experience that you have?
Yeah, so again, we certainly support everybody who is feeling harassed or assaulted by a partner or an ex-partner. Again, we would just encourage anybody to call police if they need help, even if it's just an argument and you can't figure out a way to get through it. We have our victim services here who can provide supports through external agencies to provide support for people who are in those positions.
In your division, you have multi-ethnic groups predominantly in this particular area. When you look at in the ethnic wise, do you see any kind of similarities or differences in this domestic violence?
The similarities, I think, would just be that, a lot of people don't want to report to the police.
Yeah, that's the thing, yeah.
They feel afraid that, maybe the police in Canada are maybe different from where they come from back home.
Yeah.
They may not feel like they'd be believed. And so we're just here to remind people that we're here to support everyone. We will believe you when you come forward, and we're going to support you through the process as it goes on if there's charges laid against somebody in your home.
And in this domestic violence, somewhat 80% of them are from the women who are affected. So as you are a woman, what do you say about that?
Yes, I don't know the statistic, but I'll go with your stat there. Yes, certainly, and culturally, depending on where you're from, the man is the head of the household and so makes a lot of the decisions. But here in Canada, we hope to strive for equal partnerships, and so we again have things in place to support women and men, depending on the situation, and again to help the children as well throughout this process.
These days, people are very much busy with so many other things, and they spend quite a very little time at home with their spouse and then the children. So the chances of having this violence is very limited in the sense they don't save most of the time. And the second thing, these days that with a cell phone, While traveling in the TTC or the public transportation, they text messages to someone, a co-worker or the musicians or an actor. So emotionally, they don't share 100% with their spouses. They share with some other people. So that has very negative impact in their family life. Does it create any kind of gap between the spouses at home or the parents and children at home?
It certainly could if they're going outside of their home to speak about what's going on at home. Of course, we would encourage anybody to have an open communication within their home. The other thing to say as well is because there's so much media and phones, everything is being recorded somewhere. So even if the person themselves don't want to report domestic violence, a family member or a friend can report to the police of what's going on in someone else's home, and we will still go and investigate it to make sure that everybody in the home is safe.
As far as the Southeast Asians are concerned, there is another kind of violence going on. It's not with the spouse, with the mother-in-law and the father-in-law. Have you heard anything more that? Anybody reported about it to you?
Yes.
It is very rampant in Southeast Asia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I know there are that people have a very close-knit family, and so there are times where parents get involved in the marriage more so than they would do in Canada. And that's just a situation where, again, we would attend to try and keep the peace and try to make sure that no one is being harassed or assaulted. We wouldn't label it as domestic violence when it becomes apparent, but we would still look into it just as seriously and make sure that everybody is safe and feels supported and not harassed.
In some cases, for example, the parents take upper hand of their domestic powers and things like that, and sometimes they suppress the children's rights and things like that. So it becomes another nature of violence. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult. People don't want to go against their family's wishes as much as they don't want to be in the situation that they are. Sometimes they will do what their parents tell them to do. Even sometimes their parents don't live in Canada; they live overseas, but they're getting advice and pressure from their parents to do what it is that they want them to do within their marriage. And we would just hope that people come forward with these issues so we can help them through it, and that they would try to make their decision for themselves and what's best for their own safety of their family and their children.
Yeah, for example, the parents are so much attached to their traditional values, where the children are getting integrated with the Canadian values and things like that. There's a kind of conflict comes sometimes. When they face this kind of difficult time, the children try to go away from the parents. And do you have such kind of reports?
Yes, I mean that does happen, and we certainly don't want to stop anyone from having their own cultural ideas and beliefs. We want to support everybody how they want to live, and if children want to sort of branch out, then again we will just be there to help support the family. Right
now what exactly see is you have many other violence too. For example, comparatively in 2022, the police officers killed more number of people than before in order to maintain peace and harmony, right? So that is one of the reasons the violence in different nature is going on much more than what it was. So what do you comment of that?
I think we're constantly working to improve how we operate, and Toronto's a large city. It's the largest city in Canada, so we're always going to be trying to continue our training, make sure that we're on top of the demographics and how things are going in our city, and we'll just keep working harder to make sure the city is safe for everyone to live in.
So how are you going to advise the family, the people, how they can avoid this domestic violence and live in harmony?
I think, again, just try to keep an open communication at home. As soon as they see anything that is, concerning to them, by all means, they can call us and we would come to your home and talk to you about the law here in Canada, how it could be different from laws back home. I think there's lots of different ways to report to the police. You can go online to report. You can call on behalf of somebody else. You can come into this front desk of the station if you feel comfortable. So we just want to encourage everybody to the police are here to help you in Canada, and we want to make sure that you know that and you can come and report however you can.
Last but not least, what made you to be a police officer and what made you to take responsibilities of the domestic violence? Would you please elaborate on it?
Sure. I just was never someone who I thought would, sit at a desk and work, sort of a 9-to-5 job. I always wanted to be active and to help my community, and this seemed like a great opportunity to do that. And then just furthering your knowledge in policing. Again, I'm also a sexual assault investigator as well as domestic violence. And these things are so important to our communities and to keep people safe, and that's important to me.
Okay. And within a short time, we have gone around many areas. I have never had such an interview with many areas being covered within 30 minutes, and you have given precisely whatever is our audience are interested in it. So on behalf of TAM Melbourne, we thank you for your wonderful information and sharing your experience. And once again, we'll meet you another time. Thank you so much, Sharon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.